Good afternoon and welcome to the marketplace. Coming up in this bulletin, government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu highlights government fiscal consolidation program to help slow inflation over the past month. Also, Tullow Oil reveals Jubilee Field drilling program is delivering better than expected result, a move projected to boost oil production. Also coming up, more than 60 million loan records were submitted to credit reference bureaus every month, according to the latest Bank of Ghana data. We have details of this and more coming up in this bulletin. Now let's bring you an update on how the Ghana cedi is faring against major global currencies. My name is Winston Taki, and now to our first business story. Oil exploration firm Tullow Oil has revealed that fresh drilling program on the Jubilee Field is delivering better than expected result. There is more in the following report.
The half-year numbers also showed that Tullow Oil is reducing its loss position. The financials revealed that the loss after tax reduced from $196 million to $61 million ending June this year. However, in terms of gross revenue, it reached more than $500 million ending June this year. Tullow also argued that it is pressing ahead with measures that would help improve its performance going forward. It again added that some of these measures are actually yielding some results that would help fast-track the recovery of the oil exploration firm in the coming months. Tullow Oil also announced that it has revised downwards its production targets for the end of this year.
Now, the government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu says government's fiscal consolidation efforts are beginning to yield results in the fight against inflation. Speaking to Joy Business after the release of the July inflation data, Dr. Idrisu noted that the key policy measures, including tighter public spending and improved revenue mobilization, are playing a crucial role in slowing down the price increases.
We've seen some significant improvement in the fiscal situation of government. Government is pursuing some fiscal consolidation, right? So what that means is that government is watching its spending with regards to the monies that are coming in. And so if you look at the January to June data that was released by the finance minister when he presented a media review, you saw that the primary balance was positive between January to June, which is good, which means that your revenues you are collecting is over and above your non-interest expenditures for the first 6 months of the year. And once you do not put so much pressure on spending, you don't borrow that much, and all of those bodes well for inflation. So the fiscal consolidation is helping. Number two, we've also seen exchange rate management through some of the policies that government is implementing. Here we can talk about the gold board, we can talk about what the central bank is doing with regards to its interventions, and also some of the monetary policy measures that it is implementing.
Now let's get on to the Zoom and speak to the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Joseph Obin, for some reactions to the inflation rate decline. Welcome to the marketplace. Now, what do you make of the inflation rate decline to 12.1%?
Yeah, it is very good. for businesses. Business thrives on these indicators, the interest rate, inflation, and exchange rate, and they are all responding positively to the gains that we are having in the stability and the strength of the city. So it is very good for us. It's going to help us. What is left is for the commercial banks to respond appropriately by also coming down with the interest rate. That the excuses of non-performing loans and all that should be controlled and checked by Bank of Ghana so that we can have the needed effect that we seek.
Also get indication that the rate of increase of the prices in the market has declined or is declining, or probably the increase has slowed down.
Yeah, so prices have responded positively already, but the problem here is the expected reduction, the rate of reduction. That's what is in contention now, that probably people thought prices could have gone down extremely low, but the difficulty in accessing the forest through the mainstream banks is also a major factor that is not helping the pricing, the prices to reduce. And then also the interest rate. For now, but the banks should have started also responding. If they haven't responded, then of course, cost of doing business is still high because cost of borrowing is also high. And they are all major factors of pricing. But inflation has come down. But what people also should understand, inflation is that the rate at which goods were going up. It does not necessarily mean that the existing prices should also go down. And so for the trading community, we have already responded to the price reduction for all to see. One thing that people do not differentiate is the prices of the domestic food items, the goods that are produced here locally, the plantains, the yams, and all that. Those goods are still very high. And that's what about 70% of Ghanaians, when they say that prices are not responding, they talk to. But then for the imported goods, really and truly, if you go to the market to sample before and now, the prices have responded reasonably. Yeah.
One of the key reasons countlessly Guta has been advocating for as a reason for price increment is that commercial banks have now reduced the reference rate from over 23% to 19%, following the policy rate adjustment by 300 basis points to 25%. This will result in cost of credit going down. Will you also end up reducing prices of your goods? Although you've indicated some have, but for how long are we going to see it reflect?
Okay, so it is very important because interest rate, cost of borrowing is a key component of our pricing. There's no doubt about that. But how sincere are the banks? Because they will give the reference rate but plus something. That's the risk factor. And so they will give the reference rate. It will be very attractive. But because they cite the non-performing loans and all that as a reason, they do not also reduce appropriately. That's why I'm calling on Bank of Ghana to have checks. The other time, the governor has promised that they are going to bring mechanism to check risk that the banks are using and all that. I think it's about time that we do that. Otherwise, on paper, it may seem that the reference rate have come down, but the interest rates still remain where they are.
So we got to understand from you that do you not believe that the banks will drop their rates?
The banks are not helping. I'm telling you, because they are not. They lump everything together. Their own inefficiencies, their lack of due diligences. Because how do you say that they are non-performing loans? Where you should have done your own due diligences to check these non-performing loans, and then fix your rates subjective to consumers, different consumers. You reward the one who is paying, and then punish the one who is not paying. And in any case, how do you arrive at these numerous non-performing loans? It's because of lack of due diligences. So they cannot put all their efficiencies together, some correctable practices, put them all together and push it on to their consumers or their clients. That is not fair. And this is what maybe Bank of Ghana have to come in and check. Otherwise, we are not being competitive in the sub-region. The cost of borrowing is just too high. It's not helping productivity at all. And so if we can thrive as a nation, we have to check that area, the cost of borrowing. That's what, because even if they are talking about non-performing loans, it's as a result of high interest rates that normally businesses cannot pay. That's why the non-performing loans are getting higher and higher. These days, I've heard that it's going down. If it is going down, then of course they should also bring down the interest rates for businesses to also, because the business that we do, we thrive on turnover. When inflation goes down, it helps the turnover for us to also redeem our debts at the bank. But if we do not have the turnover because as a result of high prices in the market, because interest rate is high, then of course non-performing loans will still remain the way it is.
Thank you, Mr. Obeng. Joseph Obeng is the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. In other development, more than 60 million loans recorded were submitted by banks and other financial institutions to credit bureaus, and this and more will be coming up right after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Marketplace. My name is Winston Tuggin. Now to more news. More than 60 million loans records were submitted by banks and other financial institutions to credit reference bureaus in every month for last year. This was captured in the 2024 credit reporting activity released by the Bank of Ghana. My colleague George Wiafe has been going through the report and joins us with more. George, welcome to the Marketplace. Now, tell us, does that indicate that more institutions are working with the credit bureau?
And Winston, you're right on that one, but there's a quick background too. I mean, just some years ago, the Bank of Ghana pushed the Credit Reporting Act, where they were trying to ensure that they're able to verify an individual's credit worthiness. So these institutions that had the requirement were given the license to operate in this country. Right now, we have about 3 of them. You could talk about XTS data, then in Bradstreet, and then recently the My Credit Score. These are about 3 credit reference bureaus in the country. And what has happened is that every financial institution in this country, per that Credit Reporting Act, they are required to share the credit records of individuals. So for instance, if you walk into a bank and you go in for a loan and you are seen as your credit worthy, that data is supposed to be submitted to these institutions and becomes like more of a data records that anyone can refer to if they want to deal with you as a human being or not. But indeed, on the question that you asked, indeed it suggests that more of the financial institutions are now working with them. In the past, we had a situation where some commercial banks were not working with them because they didn't want to share their good client history, because their fear was that if you will have a very good credit history, and if I should share with the Credit Reference Bureau, another bank could have access to that history, and then they will end up going to that person and all those things. So, but I realized that from this data that the Bank of Ghana has released, more of these financial institutions are now working with the data or the credit reference bureaus. If you look at even searches as well, it has gone up by more than 100%. So you're not looking at just the commercial banks, you're looking at the savings and loans, you're even looking at more of ECG, you're also looking at other financial institutions. I mean, rural banks and all the rest, they are all submitting data to these credit reference bureaus to improve the quality of loan in the country.
Interesting. We understand also from the data that debt checks are reducing.
It's right, because we realize that because all these financial institutions are sharing data with the credit reference bureaus, now they know those individual institutions that could be described as corporate. So because of those activities and data sharing, now the banks are able to flag these institutions or individuals that are described or seen as being in the habit or space of issuing checks for payment of various transactions.
It's interesting. Now, what other searches are really being carried out in this report?
If you go through, you could look at more of loans. So, for instance, a bank is granting a business loan to an institution. You realize that that bank wants to send in some requests to these credit reference bureaus that help me with the credit history of institution XYZ. And then also you realize that most of these savings and loans who do more of the individual and credit or more of personalized loans are also doing more. So if you move away from the commercial banks, the next institution that you will see will be the savings and loans companies as well. They are doing more searches as well with these institutions. And again, when it comes to the fact that the Bank of Ghana is also working to bring more players in this space, it will get to an extent where, for instance, ECG be able to see that when it comes to you delay in paying your bills as well, and that will be how should they handle you as a person. If you go through the report again, you realize the Bank of Ghana is also working to bring in players in the petroleum sector as well, because they do a lot of financial transactions. So and it wouldn't just be maybe certain specific institutions, but it will get to a time where every institution in this country will be able to have a credit history on that person. And don't forget that the ultimate aim, one would say, is to improve credit history and the loan delivery, and also deal with the challenge of non-performing loans, which has been a major headache for the commercial banks, and the fact that that is also affecting the pricing of new loans.
Thank you very much, George, for bringing out this update. I'm sure we'll bring in more insightful conversation here on the marketplace. Now, the Finance Ministry is seeking public input in the preparation of the 2026 budget statement and economic policy, which should be presented to Parliament by November 15th, 2025. Now, let's go to that particular press release that was being put out by the Finance Ministry. The ministry expresses its appreciation to the business associations, recognized professional bodies, financial institutions, civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, and the general public for your invaluable contributions to the development of the national budget over the years. The ministry has earnestly begun the process of developing the 2026-2029 budget statement and economic policy to be presented to Parliament by 15th of November 2025, and therefore request for input from the general public for consideration into the 2026-2029 national budget. This call is in line with the government's responsiveness to the needs of the Ghanaian citizenry to deepen citizens' participation in the budget process, as well as implement inclusive policies. Your input should be submitted electronically to BDRU at Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning.gov.gh by close of business on Friday, 29th of August 2025. Thank you. That's from the Ministry of Finance. Also, the Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Bo Lee, has called for the adoption of digital financial technologies to boost remittance inflows in Ghana and across the sub-Saharan African region. He noted that the cost of remittances has risen significantly, averaging more than 8.6%, well above the internationally recommended rate of 3%.
It's very costly among many SSA countries. And digital payment could potentially offer a lot of hope to cut the cost of remittance in SSA region. Right now, the average cost of remittance in the SSA region is more than 8.5%. The average cost of remittance. That is much higher than the UN SDG goal of 3%. And and the remittance cost is high, and time is long, and also there is a lack of transparency. So digital payment could potentially solve this puzzle, but that requires, as I said, that requires national authorities to strengthen their domestic system, to work together, to provide interoperability and the interlinking, and also finally to figure out how to utilize the new blockchain and tokenization technology to further cut down the cost of remittance. And we are already working with a number of regions in SSA, and we are hoping to continue with those projects. And in the next couple of years, we're hoping to produce some tangible results that can help countries to continue that journey, to continue to bring down the cost of remittance and to cut the cost, to cut the time, and also to bring transparency and resilience to the payment system.
That's all for today here on the Marketplace. For more news, visit myjoyonline.com/business for more updates. My name is Winston Taggett. Thanks for watching and have a good business day. Bye-bye.